Hi there, y'all. It's Juliet Miranda. Welcome to episode 168 of the Unwritable Rant podcast. I'm putting the boozy stories on hold today because I want to welcome a guest. This is our first returning guest, y'all, and his name is Anthony Cumia. Let me just start by saying I respect the hell out of this guy. I do. He has been to broadcasting hell and back. First with terrestrial radio, then Sirius XM with the Opie and Anthony show. But now he has Compound Media, his broadcast network that hosts a ton of great shows, as well as his own, the Anthony Cumia Show with Dave Landau. He was one of the first guests that I had on this show. And if you want to hear our first conversation, you've got to dig all the way back to episode 25. But today, we're going to be catching up on what Anthony has been up to for the last 3 years. We talk about his book, Permanently Suspended, his war with Opie, and we get into Louis C.K., comedy, and free speech. Anthony Cumia is just truly the funniest guy I can think of to never call himself a comedian. And this is a great conversation. I hope you all enjoy it. Cheers. Well, hello, Mr. Cumia. It's good to speak with you.
Absolutely. How you doing?
I'm good. Hey, thank you for taking the time tonight. I know you just got done doing your own thing, so I appreciate it.
Oh, good. I'm just standing here in Penn Station looking at the mutants.
Oh, nice. Anybody interesting tonight, or is it just pretty quiet?
There was one woman that was kicking over somebody's art display and yelling, but I don't know. It's just business as usual here in New York City.
Was the art that bad?
Yeah, I was kind of trying to see if maybe she was just a critic, but I think she was insane.
Oh, well, all right. It's all good then.
Yeah.
I want to say thank you for being a return guest on the show. You and I spoke 3 years ago, almost to the day.
Yeah.
It's cool for me, and because so much has happened in that time. I mean, just with your show.
Oh my God.
The tone is different. You know, it sounds like you're having way more fun than ever.
Yeah. It was, God, the pressure was a little much at the beginning. It was, obviously I don't want to screw it up. And I still was, the scourge of society and trying to make my own way and figure out what I needed to do a show. This just works out. As time goes by, it gets easier. I like Dave on there now. He's absolutely amazing.
Oh my God, he is the greatest co-host ever. He listens. It's perfect.
Right. He knows exactly how to fill that role of co-host. It's fantastic.
You touched on it a little bit in your book, but what made you decide to have a co-host with you? Because, before you didn't have one when you started the Anthony Cumia Show.
Yeah, initially I didn't even really want one. I think all the people around me thought it would be a good idea to kind of not temper me as much as just add another voice in there. Because left to my own devices, I will go. I will just go off and everything I say, I'm positive I'm right, and things like that. So even though it's not a debate between, especially people like me and Dave, it just adds another voice. I think that definitely helps the show. From the beginning, it was especially with the mood I was in, I was very angry. I was, all I wanted was vengeance on the industry and everything. And I think that really came out. So to have a co-host there to just, lighten things up sometimes was a big help in getting the show to where it is now.
Well, that anger you had, is that maybe why you waited a couple of years to release the book?
Yeah, it did take some time to cook, I didn't want to, if I wrote a book right when I got fired, man, that would have been an angry book.
Yeah, you would have set the world on fire.
Yeah, I know, but I think it would have been a little too angry and might have reinforced some people's impression of me that is pretty wrong, inaccurate in a lot of ways. Yeah, I think it was good that I kind of had time to breathe and soak it in, and even in some respects accept my part in a lot of stuff that went down over the course of the years that I worked with Opie, and then when I was fired and whatnot. So I think that time did help, especially with looking back with a little more hindsight on the Opie situation with myself and my former co-host and partner Opie. That kind of helped. As it's known to the fans, we do not get along very well these days anyway.
No, but the book was more diplomatic than I anticipated.
Yeah, I saved the undiplomatic stuff for the air.
Right. Well, okay? So what's the distinction? Why is on air okay and not in the book?
Well, the on air part I think is more immediate and reactive than when I really got a chance to think about things. I'm pissed at Opie. I to this day, I think he didn't back me with the bosses. I think he was doing a little manipulation behind the scenes about myself and Jimmy and other people on the show. But I honestly think on the air, it's a lot easier if he says something on Tuesday, I'm on the air Wednesday talking about, his little critique of me or something. So it's a lot more reactive, and that'll get things a lot more heated. But I think in book form, when I was able to kind of reflect on it and look at it, it's kind of silly to completely just trash him when he did kind of just grab whatever his motives were. He kind of just grabbed the construction guy and decided he would make good radio. So that worked out very well for me, and I will always appreciate that. But, he could be a real friggin' idiot sometimes.
Well, and I love that you had Jim Norton do the intro for your book.
Oh, yeah.
I think just from what you've said, how he was a little bit of a catalyst in, the disintegration of the relationship with Opie. He just nailed that intro.
Yeah, he's such a good friend, and I've known him for so long. We have never even had a slight bump in our friendship over the years. We understand each other so well that there's never a misunderstanding as to what our intentions are or anything like that. We accept each other's foibles and our occasional attitudes that we get and completely understand them. And I love the guy like a brother. And aside from probably just a brother, he knows me better than anyone on earth. So for him to do the intro was a no-brainer. He really did nail it. He knows me very well.
Yeah, just he was comparing you to Richard Pryor and said that your great flaw was getting drunk and going on Twitter, which today almost seems worse than setting yourself on fire. So
yeah, these days, that could end things pretty quickly. It's kind of weird to look back at. That was almost 5 years ago. I got fired because of Twitter and what I put on Twitter. And now I would have thought like, wow, okay, maybe we could start turning things around and get back to reality and understand context and things. And it's only gotten worse. It's only gotten worse. You're supposed to be some kind of precog and understand what you say today. You got to know what's going to be taboo in 10 years from now. It's virtually impossible. And there's so many young people and people just entering the workforce that don't understand, like, you got to be careful. This is a career destroyer if you say the wrong thing. And there's really, it's very difficult, especially in some industries, to come back from that ever. I was lucky because, being in the business I was in, I was already kind of a scourge and part of the Opie and Anthony show, known for being a little irreverent and off-center. So I was able to kind of snap back from that. But you get somebody that's a CEO or a young guy that's up and coming in a business, you just destroy your career right there because you were drunk one night or taken out of context or what have you. So I don't think people understand the danger and harm that could come from just talking on the internet.
Right. Well, it's so odd. When I was, it was probably like second grade. I grew up in the early 80s. My mother was consoling me because somebody found a note that I'd written. And she said, you know what? Never put anything in writing you don't want people to remember. And it's so true today. I mean, it's the same thing.
Oh, my God. Yeah. And when it was just one note and in one place and it could be destroyed, that's one thing. But Now, the second something's on there, what gets me a lot of times is someone will post something and within a microsecond decide, that might not be a good idea, and they delete it. It's already been grabbed by somebody. Like, it's already been grabbed. So you don't even have that safety net.
I'll tell you, I've said this before. I think the genius idea out there is a social media cleaning company. There's got to be somebody who's going to put this in action.
Wow, that is good. I think you should have a breathalyzer on your phone. And depending on your blood alcohol level, that's the amount of delay before your tweet is actually sent out. So if you're really hammered, it might be a 12-hour delay, and then you could review it. If you've had a couple of beers, maybe it's 5 minutes. And then you could, think about it before you hit that send button permanently.
Yes.
Because, man, if you're drinking a little bit, you get a little loose with the mouth when you're out. But when you get loose with the keyboard on your phone, that's the problem.
I once heard you say, I don't know where it was, I think it was Joe Rogan, you said consequence is the antithesis of funny. Yeah. Have you ever wondered if the funny was worth it?
At the time, the funny is always worth it. Like, if you're a comic or a comic broadcaster or just kind of a funny comic actor, whatever it is, that moment when you spit a joke out and the timing is impeccable, it's worded perfectly, it doesn't matter what the consequence is. That's the perfect moment. In hindsight, you might start thinking, there could be some trouble there. But a comic will always take that chance. And a comic was usually given that latitude to screw up, if that's even the right term to use, but to work things out and realize that's a little rough. Maybe I won't use that on stage again. Or, yeah, I said it in front of a crowd, but, it's the context of a comedian kind of working it out or just blurting out something that is funny, even though it might be off color or tasteless or painful to some people. And then all of a sudden, you're not even allowed that anymore. You're not even allowed that experimentation as a comic. And that is really, it's impossible for a comic to work in those parameters. Impossible.
Oh, I know. I see Louis C.K. coming out there now, and my heart goes out to the guy because he's trying to work out these jokes and just getting, it's insane.
It really is. There are comics out there that are saying, he should just pack it in. He shouldn't do this joke. He shouldn't do that. It's as a comic, you should absolutely understand the process and know that if someone's recording your act before you're done wording things or switching things around or maybe removing an entire segment of something when you're out in a club, that's how you get good. That's how you make an hour that's worthy of putting up as a broadcast special. And to record it prematurely and then put it out there going, well, look at what this guy's saying is so unfair. And it's never been that way. And because it is now, I think a lot of comics are working with fear. And a comic that is afraid on stage has 90% of his arsenal taken away.
Absolutely.
Yeah, it's just very detrimental to what comedy has been for so long and what it should be.
Is that sort of why you stick to the live streaming format so that you have that immediacy? Because I would think that, for me, having a recorded show gives me great comfort because I know if I fuck something up, I can go back and fix it.
Yeah, there's something about the live show. I always wanted it to be live. It started early on. When I was doing the show with Opie back in Boston, I was really new to the whole thing and didn't understand why things were recorded. A lot of times it was for time constraints because we only had so much time to talk between songs or between a commercial and getting back to the music on the station. And I'd be like, God, no, let's just take live calls. Why are you recording these? And we'd dump some and we'd use some, but we'd edit it. And I never understood that. I thought live was everyone knows you're working without a net. And it makes it so much more exciting, not only for the people listening, but for you. I love knowing that we're live. When the music starts and I look into the monitor and I see that we're live, that's it. You get this one chance. It might not be cursing these days on a digital platform that's going to get you in trouble. But there's plenty of other things that could get you in trouble. And other things that are just magnificent when they happen spontaneously. And the fact that it's going out there live is just part of why I tend to think live is perfect for us anyway.
Well, and I look at shows on Compound Media like In Hot Water, and those guys are just so over the top and hysterical. And it's right there and it's out there and it's crazy to me. I love it.
Yeah, they are off the rails, man. I often talk about that show like it's the one show that I even go, oh, maybe they went too far. Maybe that's a little much. But they're hilariously funny. They're unapologetic. And it's all done in fun and comedy. And that's the context. We so lost track of context in this world. We think if a comic says something or a goofy morning radio show says something, that it's to be taken with the same importance or credence or what have you as if a doctor or a lawyer said or a politician delivering an important speech said the same thing. And it's just not the case. Sometimes things are terrible to say, but sometimes it's done in the context of comedy. And for some reason, that uncomfortability and taboo of the subject makes it funnier. It's always been that way. No politically correct people are going to breed that out of our brains. It's been that way for millennia. And it's just the way it is. Some people don't like that, but that's what we're dealing with in comedy. And it's part of it, and it's a huge part of it. And to try to get rid of something like that, the context of comedy is horrible.
Well, and I think comedy is one of the last reflections that we have of ourselves. And I think people freak out when they hear truth like that. It's like you said, they're uncomfortable with it.
We used to goof on it years ago when the first time we heard about participation trophies and things with kids that were in elementary school. And we would knock it around the show and be like, wow, this is a bad precedent. This is going to be something that makes it so these kids, when they grow up, can't accept rejection or failure or offense. And it absolutely played out that way. Just because you're offended doesn't mean other people don't find it hilariously funny. Just because somebody's speech offends you doesn't mean they don't have an absolute right to say it and to express their opinions without this consequence of losing everything based on your opinion. But that's where we are. And I occasionally think I see a light at the end of the tunnel, but man, it gets covered up quick because I don't see it changing. It's just despicable out there.
I've read Ray Bradbury. I've read George Orwell. I know where this is going. It's not good.
Yeah.
And we've come to this point where there's this reverse bullying where now, you get attacked and people go after your livelihood because they don't like what you said and they feel like they're justified in it.
Yeah, that's the thing. It's the not even trying to cover it up. It's like, oh, I'll destroy this guy's life. Like they go public and say,
yeah, they encourage people.
Yeah, we need to destroy this person's life. Really? They have a differing opinion? Like people can't grasp that the way you feel about somebody's opinion is the way they feel about yours. And how would you like it if somebody went to take your entire livelihood and reputation and what have you away because of your opinion? And their mindset isn't being able to look and stand in someone else's shoes and look in the mirror and see that. It's, no, you don't get it. I'm right.
Exactly.
You're wrong. It's like, no, that's not how it works. They really don't seem to have the ability for self-reflection and looking deep or any kind of empathy and looking at someone else's point of view. It's, I'm right, you're wrong, you need to be silenced. And man, that's got to stop.
There's no more conversation. I'm terrified by this because it doesn't matter now what I say in defense of myself or what somebody else says because it's just the way that it is.
Yeah, and defending yourself winds up sounding worse. That's another kind of thing that's mutated over the years.
It's like you're admitting defeat.
Right. When you have to explain why you're not some ist or some phobe, all you sound like is somebody trying hard to defend something that you are. It's rarely the case. It's usually, you're really trying to say, hey, there's no justification for you to label me this. And then they go, oh, okay. Yeah, that's what they all would say. It's like, no, really, there's no justification.
Did you ever think, I mean, as you were building and starting Compound Media, that it would become this bastion of free speech? Because I heard Joe Rogan tell you, if it wasn't for you, this wouldn't exist. I mean, you've started something that people are really latching onto at this, grassroots, rolling level.
Yeah, I wish I had just thought of it and done it, but it was more of a lifeboat at the time, when you're damaged goods in this day and age. So in that respect, I did start something before I got fired, but after I got the boot from SiriusXM, it was just a natural progression when I started doing a show, and then I realized there were other people that were in the same boat. No company was going to put them under their flag and let them speak openly and freely. So we started bringing people on board like Gavin McInnes and Michael Malice.
Well, and that led to all sorts of craziness.
Oh, yeah, because, you talk about freedom of speech and the consequences thereof. Gavin's a great barometer for that. I love Gavin. I think he's an amazing guy. He's a great entertainer. He's great at sarcasm and parody and satire, but people take it all too seriously. And I don't think they understand him as a person. He's just a wonderful guy, a great family man, a really good friend, and they have him painted as literally a monster in some of the media. And that's another thing that's very difficult to get past these days, because the media is so biased that you defend somebody like Gavin and they will lump you in with, Nazis or Hitler, and it's absolutely bizarre, the power of the biased media and trying to get out from under that. So Compound Media allowed me to be able to get on and discuss things and talk about things in plain English in a way I've always spoken and my own ideology, without having to worry so much that some board member is going to worry about the peripheral companies that sell diapers and baby formula and, tell the radio division to get rid of that guy on the third floor. It's just, they become these huge monolithic entities that don't care about free speech anymore.
Where do you see all of this going for you? Do you have any sort of going forward plan? Yeah,
I think we kind of, as they say, stay the course and keep doing what we're doing. It's successful. It works. I'm happy. I'm having a lot of fun. The show's not all that serious. We goof around on a lot of the things. But if the need ever comes up to actually have a platform to speak openly and serious about a topic that's really weighing on the country or what have you, it's there. It's a nice thing to have. So I don't like planning too far ahead, and things are going smooth. So I think we'll just keep going where we're going.
Well, that reminds me of something I read in your book, and I'm probably just delving into this way too deeply like an asshole, but you start and end the book with very definitive points. There's no refunds and there's no looking back.
Mm-hmm.
That seems to kind of be the metaphor for your career, really.
Yeah, that really is. I mean, a lot of people dwell too much on that, looking back, things like regret or what ifs, and even planning the future. I mean, it's smart, obviously, to have a good outline as to where you're going. But if you plan too detailed for your future, it's only going to bring grave disappointment and in some cases disaster. Like I said, you could have a general outline of where you're going, but there's too many variables to really plan your future out. And you have to be prepared for those setbacks without giving up. That's pretty much what my story is about. Getting knocked down a few times and just get back up and do what you know you can do. I know I can get in front of a microphone and entertain people, whether it's funny or poignant or whatever it is. I know that's what I can do, and that's my talent. So as long as I get back up and do that, I'll be fine.
Well, the book is permanently suspended, and compoundmedia.com is where you can find your show and the book. Is there anything else that you want to go over or talk about?
No, thanks so much for having me on. You're a blast.
Oh, no problem. I'm glad you had fun.
I'll talk to you soon again.
All right, sounds good, and have a good ride home.
Thank you. The train, but it gets me home. Hey, thanks a lot. I'll talk to you soon.
Bye.
Bye.